ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Congress, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
When I assumed the presidency 5 years ago, dominant in my mind were the dreams and visions of a better life for all Filipinos.
We have taken away the misery of public commuting. We also pursue the completion of the LRT2 East Extension Project by extending Line 2 and adding 2 more stations. We have reduced travel time between Manila and Antipolo from the usual 2 to 3 hours to only just 40 minutes. Thanks to our partnership with the private sector, we are able to open Stage 3 of the Metro Manila Skyway in January this year. This decongested EDSA, free education, it's there already. The universal health care, nandiyan na po. The fight against illegal drugs, criminality, and corruption, and the development structure, including free irrigation and other big-ticket projects, which I thought I did not have the funds to do it. But perchance, among others, they were done in my term. Corruption is endemic in government. You cannot stop corruption. Nobody can stop corruption.
I have full confidence that the Filipino spirit will persevere and triumph together. And together, let us rise as a nation. Thank you.
And President Duterte has delivered his final State of the Nation address. How did he fare in fulfilling his promises? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to this special edition of The Chiefs. I'm Robbie Alampay, and with us online are Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5 and Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, happy Monday. And it's a happy Monday.
Happy Monday and
because
happy Olympic
we
gold.
would like to share breaking news that the Philippines has won our first gold in the Olympics. Heidelin Diaz has won gold in weightlifting.
Congratulations. Good news today. Good news, good news.
Anytime na, papatugtugin ng lupang hinirang.
Oo.
Sarap. Proud.
Talaga naman. And it wasn't just Heidelin. Maraming good news all around kanina sa boxing. Skateboarding, we didn't win, but it was still a great performance.
Yeah, no? Sayang.
Talagang, yung mga, talagang tinataas ang bandila natin sa Tokyo. But then,
Galing.
But then, of course, I mean, that overshadows our story of the day, of course, just for a moment. But of course, the big story today, of course, was the State of the Nation address of the President. No way to discount or to ignore that. And for that, we have mahaba-habang kwentuhan to. Hindi kasing haba ng SONA. That broke a record also.
Oh, yes, yes.
2 hours, 45 minutes. But,
Let's not relive that.
by the way, sorry po, high pa tayo. But yung kay Heidelin Diaz, if I'm getting it right from Gretchen, that's an Olympic record. So it's
Yes.
not just
Also, so
it's
dalawa, no?
Oh.
Our first gold and an Olympic record.
an Olympic record. Anyway, we have a loaded panel tonight. We'll ask them about Heidelin Diaz, but we'll also ask them about the State of the Nation address of President Duterte. We do have a loaded panel for tonight to talk about the President's final SONA. We have with us Dr. Jean Encinas Franco of the UP Department of Political Science. Joining her, two gentlemen from the Ateneo School of Government, former Dean Attorney Tony Lavinia, as well as Professor Edmund Tayo. Good evening, lady and
Good
gentlemen.
evening. Good evening, everyone.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, sirs and ma'am.
Let's start with your, just an open, if anybody wants to start, was there anything surprising? I asked this of Dean Tony kanina rin. Was there anything surprising, whether it was something that was said or something that was not said?
Umpisahan ko na kasi nagpaalam na ako, maaga akong, pero I can log on again later, pero siguro more on audio na lang. I was already expecting that he will make a litany of what supposedly were accomplished in the past 5 years or so. No? And he did that. No? And second, of course, he will outline what he thinks can still be done in the last few months remaining in office. Although, of course, again, there were some things that I don't agree with. I don't agree with the creation of a Department of Migrant Workers. I've mentioned that a number of times before. Sana, alam mo, long delayed na yung kailangan ma-assess man lang, no? Yung government bureaucracy natin, masyadong top-heavy, no? Dapat ma-consolidate yung mga different, ang daming agencies, Commission on Philippines Overseas, OWA, POA. You already have a Department of Foreign Affairs, you already have a Department of Labor and Employment. Siguro, gawin mo na lang one-stop shop and so on, no? But the bottom line is, kailangan tingnan muna natin yung public administration natin. I couldn't agree more with the strategy, although of course we could have heard more in terms of jump-starting the economy. But I couldn't agree more with zeroing in on employment because for obvious reasons, employment has really been hit hard. Not to mention, of course, businesses have been closing shop as a result of the pandemic. But I don't know whether it was just because of the lack of time in the SONA or that there was really more details that we were hoping that the president could have said more. But definitely that's quite welcome. What I don't agree with is in the saying that, you know, we could have done more as far as the pandemic is concerned. Sobrang kulang yung work with the local governments could have been highlighted. From the very start, if you remember last year, for example, so many local governments, cities and provinces for that matter, wanted to really start their own testing centers so as to trace movement of people and so on. That could have started, no? Also, a joint effort on both levels of government as far as curbing the pandemic. Pero hindi na nangyari yun. The Department of Health rejected that offer from the local governments, no? So, para sa akin, may kulang tayo in that regard. But yun na nga, yung mga sinabi naman ng mga na-accomplish, totoo naman yun, health, education, so on and so forth. But again, so much could have, federalism, I want to include that. Hindi nabanggit yan. Nanalo ang Pangulo dahil sa kampanya niya sa federalism, sa pagbabago ng sistema ng gobyerno, pero hindi nabanggit yun. Hindi din nabanggit yung Mandanas Garcia ruling. No, that could have really highlighted, no, the understanding in the background of the good president as a former local chief executive in terms of empowering further, no, the local governments and partnering with the local governments. Yun lang po.
Pero Prof, before we move on to the other guests, itanong ko na rin muna to habang nandito tayo. Kasi I think as early as 2019, bumitaw na yung Pangulo dun sa issue ng federalism. In fact, I remember him talking about it, saying na masyadong masalimuot at hindi na ipupursu. At the same time, I think also in 2019, ang sabi rin ng Pangulo, he was also pushing for other new departments, maliban dun sa Department of Overseas Workers. Meron siyang Department of Water as well as the Department of Disaster Resilience. So marami-rami pa siyang iniisip na na gusto idagdag sa burokrasya.
Yun na nga yun ang dapat pag-isipang mabuti. Can you imagine may problema ka sa tubig, kailangan mo ng Department of Water? Yun na nga, kailangan mong i-assess muna ano bang ahensya dapat yung in charge dito sa issue na ito. Kasi ang punto ko dito, halimbawa, doon tayo sa migrant workers as an example. Meron kang Commission of Philippines Overseas, meron kang OWA, meron kang POEA. Iba pa yung ginagawa ng DOLE, iba pa yung ginagawa ng DFA. And I know this for a fact because of course, as an academic, you get invited to make an assessment and so on and so forth. Alam mo, pagdating mo sa embassy, hindi alam minsan kung sino ba in charge dito, no? Sino ba, kung ba merong kailangan ng assistance na OFW, sino ba ang tatawagin mo? OWA ba? POEA? Ang dami mong mini-maintain na opisina sa labas. Ang nakakatawa dito, hindi din naman nagko-coordinate halos, no? Iba yung lakad ng trade, for example, iba yung lakad ng defense. May kanya-kanya silang portfolio, fine. But the question is, how do you integrate this? Yun ang point ko dito. No, lalo na ngayon, merong Mandanas Garcia ruling, alin dito sa mga services na to, hindi man maintindihan, ano ba yung i-download? Da-download ba pera o programs and projects? No?
Dean
So yun,
Tony,
medyo hahaba kaya hanggang doon na lang ako.
Dean Tony, before we get into all the specifics, kasi napakarami naman talagang
Exactly.
diniscuss, no? But Dean Tony, what was the most that the president could have gotten out of this final SONA in the first place? And realistically, what was the most that we could have that the people should have wanted to see?
Sa akin, ano yung ating pathway out of the pandemic, ba? Yun ang pinakamahalaga na narinig sa natin ng Pangulo na, di ba, eto na yung pathway natin sa pandemic. Hindi lang yung physical, kasi nandyan yung vaccination, sinabanggit naman niya yung vaccination, di ba? But alam na natin na, sinabi din naman niya na may problema tayo kasi hindi na tayo pwede mag-lockdown. But as I said kanina, yung parang may contradiction doon kasi kaka-lockdown lang natin ulit, di ba? We have just been locked down again, or they call it GCQ with heightened restrictions, di ba? Pero with the threat na baka we'll even get more lockdown, di ba? So sa akin, that could have been the most that ano bang studies will show na tayo ang pinakamahina in terms of stimulus, economic stimulus, na we didn't spend right to support the people, na to support businesses, di ba? I don't know how our di ba, yung our airlines, for example, how will they survive this, di ba? Ang laking bagay yan, kasi I mean, we are an archipelago, di ba? We need those airlines. We need those airlines kasi without those airlines, we will not be able, di ba, yung ating ability to move around. No? So sa akin, yun talaga yung malaking opportunity na nawala kasi yung other legislative measures niya, naulit na yun, ilang beses niya naulit, and nag-advance na yon. Pero nasa stages siya na maaaring hindi na siya magagawa, di ba? There's a reason why hindi siya lumalabas sa Senado. Yung Department of Disaster Resilience, yung Department of OFWs, yung modernization ng fire, di ba? May reason yan na hindi siya lumalabas, I mean, and the president needs to get involved kung gusto talaga niya lumabas. One particular missing thing sa legislation na very disappointing for Mindanaoans, no? Lalo na yung BARM, no? Is yung extension ng BARM. Importante 'yon.
Yung BDA.
I would agree. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Hindi siya nabanggit at all, di ba? Yung Marawi din na compensation bill, importante din 'yon. Nabanggit naman niya yung dapat matapos na yung rebuilding ng Marawi, but that has nothing to do. That will not help yung mga tao sa Marawi makabalik, di ba? Para yan sa mga mga civil works yan, mga public buildings. So that too is very disappointing for Mindanaoan sa tingin ko.
Dr. Jean?
Yeah. I guess the speech was a little bit tone deaf. I thought he was going to talk about COVID, how to address COVID, how to accelerate the vaccine rollout, when he said in the beginning of the speech, when he lauded the healthcare workers, but he did not do it. No, he enumerated his accomplishments. I think because COVID is in the minds of everyone, he should have started it, and he should have, said something about where we are now in the fight against COVID, in the vaccination, if there's even a campaign, because some people still do not want to be vaccinated, and how we are going to move forward, no? Because you cannot even begin to think of job creation unless you know how we can, address the pandemic, and what kind of jobs are we going to have post-pandemic. And then he also said something about the police and the military.
Yeah.
um, that's one of the highlights of his administration. He really, quote unquote, protected and gave a lot to the police in terms of salary increases.
Yeah.
But to my mind, you cannot solve everything by just providing higher salaries to the military and the police. Of course, we know why he's doing that, but then there has to be specifically, for instance, the police. There are structural reforms that are needed. Technology is needed so that we can, modernize the way police work is conducted here in the country. So these are things that I thought should have, made his speech more uh, substantive. Plus, because it is a legacy speech, he should have started from the Philippine Development Plan. We know that the president is not technocratic, but I'm sure speechwriters can have a way, because you need to take stock. What were your targets in the beginning of your term, and how did you, what has been achieved among these targets? To what extent has COVID derailed the achievement of some of these targets? So these are things that I found missing in the speech of the president.
So kahit na yung sinabi niya about yung mga bagong departments at yung mga bagong laws, out of context, kasi hindi yung context yung COVID, di ba?
Yes, exactly.
Parang how can you actually create, kung ganitong situation natin sa economy, how can you create all these new bureaucracies, di ba? Parang may off din doon na maybe in this Department of Disaster Resilience, kasi COVID is a disaster, maybe pwede mo siyang mag-justify, no? I mean, but parang yung iba, it's hard to imagine kung paano mo siya but can I say something positive, if I may? Nabanggit natin kanina nung nag-uusap-usap tayo. The powerful parts of the speech, palagi naman kay Pangulo, ay pag nagkwento siya, kasi gets yun ng masa, di ba? Gets yun ng maraming tao. Ako was watching it with my wife. We are pretty much critical ng Duterte, but my wife is a much more down to earth. May PhD din yung wife ko, for down to earth yun sa akin. Yung wife ko, tawa siya talaga ng tawa sa kwento ni Duterte. Yung tawa lang siya ng tawa, na natatawa din siya sa mga kwento, parang naawa din siya sa atin, pero natatawa siya dun sa kwento, dun sa yung sa pila, or when maging sarcastic si Duterte sa kanyang audience ng mga powerful, di ba? At yung yung kanyang kwento tungkol sa war against drugs, di ba, na yung mga babae na umuwi na pwede umuwi sa bahay na hindi na
Dumadaan sa dilim.
Sa mga dilim, sa mga lasing, mga hindi na natatakot, no. On the other hand, while that might be powerful sa masa, no, yun, daming yun yung kwento na yun, kasi he was trying to justify the war against drugs and the killings, di ba? Admission against interest yun, pwede yun magagamit sa kanya sa International Criminal Court, because he was basically saying na because of this problem, I have to do what I have to do, di ba? I have to kill, I have ordered to kill, etc., etc. So magagamit yun against him. But yun yung contradiction palagi, di ba? You might be appealing to your local audience, at least parts of your base. Siyempre, naka-appeal siya sa base niya. But you also, you also compromise yourself dun sa accountability.
Professor, apologies and to the chiefs then, pardon us, but we're gonna have to make room for this live report coming out of Tokyo. We have with us on the line our man in Tokyo, Paulo Del Rosario. Paulo!
Robbie,
Oh.
I think you already know.
Yes,
We have
the whole
officially
nation already knows.
made
Tell us what's
history.
going on.
Look, Heidelin Diaz just set history over and over again. To get a gold medal, which she just won in the weightlifting women's 55-kilogram category, she had to go set 2 straight Olympic records to get the gold against Xu Yunyao of China. It was breathtaking. It was dramatic. And as soon as she lifted her 127-kilogram clean and jerk, the emotions just came over. All the Filipinos present, all the journalists here, every member of the delegation, and for Heidi herself. To the point now that she is now talking with your partner, Gretchen Ho, at the moment, very emotional. And I can tell you, the chills we all felt, seeing the Philippine flag finally get on top of that podium and to hear the Lupang Hinirang is a feeling that cannot be replicated, Robbie.
When does that happen, Paolo? I mean, are we waiting for that? When do we hear the Lupang Hinirang playing at the Olympics in Tokyo? Or is that what we're
just
seeing now?
finished. Yeah, it just
Eto na
finished
yata
just
eh.
now. And right now, after the entire medal ceremony, she's now talking to our Gretchen Ho, and we're going to have that interview, I'm sure, very soon. And she is emotional, as you can expect. Everyone here is, I'm at a loss for words. And Robbie, I can talk a lot. But this is an incredible moment for Philippine sports. It felt that as soon as she entered for her first lift, she had a confidence that we rarely see in Filipino athletes. And at the end of it all, when she lifted her Olympic record, the entire venue, as limited as it is due to the lack of spectators, just applauded, cheered, and when the realization came around that we have won our first gold medal, everything just went blank. It is a special moment that I have trouble describing, Robbie.
Okay, thanks a lot. We will continue to keep posting that, and we will definitely try to catch Gretchen later with more of her conversation with Heidelin Diaz. If you have not heard, and we doubt you have not heard, Twitterverse is exploding with this. All Filipinos are posting and celebrating with Heidelin Diaz and Team Pilipinas in Tokyo. Mabuhay Heidelin Diaz, the first gold medal for the Philippines in the Olympics. Okay. Dean Tony, shall we ask you about weightlifting?
Remember, interestingly, si Heidelin was included in the Aus Duterte Matrix in 2019. In May 2019.
Oh, talaga?
Iba
I still
talaga.
remember
Iba
that.
talaga mag-segue si...
You're a wet blanket.
Iba mag-segue si Bok. Parating may ano.
Ang ganda na ng feeling ko eh.
Hindi, but I wanna, just to bring it back.
Pinapaalala mo pa.
Good segue.
But to bring it back to the conversation, I mean...
Let's get back to brass tacks. Brass, really.
No, but Professor Jean, I'm glad you mentioned the prominent and the very early mention, and actually a significant substance, on talking about the police and the military. At least 3 or 4 different aspects to it. He talked about improving pay and benefits. He talked about modernization. And then at the very end, he also talked about wanting to put in place some protection for the police and
Legal
military for
Legal
the
assistance.
conduct of their operations, particularly if they get questioned for human rights and so on. But beyond the details of it, let me ask all of you, what's the significance of that? Starting off the SONA with a very clear message to the military and to the police.
I think he up to the very end, he wants to protect them. He wants them to be grateful to him because that's one of the playbooks of authoritarians, actually, if I may say so.
And elections coming, di ba? And the military and the police always has a very important role in elections. No? So that I think is important. I just want to say though, for the record, yung everything that is said there about NTF-ELCAC is not accurate. I mean, to be honest.
Everything?
Yeah, yung dismantling that number of fronts. It's also illogical, di ba? They've always been saying na 6,000 na lang yung warriors, 17,000 ang surrender. All of these things have been debunked already, di ba? if you actually ask the NTF-ELCAC people kasi about accountability for the money, they will actually tell you that the money has not been spent, di ba? And then they give you this they have all of this accomplishment, but the money actually has not been spent. Kaya hindi sila accountable for anything because the money is sitting somewhere probably being reserved for elections, no? Kasi that's local money, but that's really I would just say that's just propaganda, no, yung sa NTF LCAC na at least that part of the speech about the NTF LCAC talagang propaganda siya. Kasi matagal ko na sinusundan yung numbers na yun at it's walang grounding yung numbers na yon in terms of the strength of the very idea lang na matatapos yung insurgency in 1 year is just ridiculous, diba? I mean, if you talk to LGU people, if you are in the countryside, diba? I mean, it's a very live insurgency, no? I wish it would end. I wish, let me be very clear about that. I don't support it, and I want it to end in a permanent peace agreement, diba? But it's not over out there, diba? It's there's still a lot of actually contradicted himself kasi sinabi na niya, ano lang ito, speech lang ito, numbers, pero grabe sa labas talagang nagpapatayan na. But that's true, no? There's a real increase also in armed incidents all over the country, no? I mean, and that's not, hindi yan signal of a dying insurgency, to be honest.
Okay, let me ask you, how much of the speech of the president today was a kind of like a laying the groundwork for whoever he might be endorsing, or if he were to run himself, no, which is a possibility. How much of the speech today was leading up to that somehow? In other words, how much of it was kind of election related? Anyone?
Well, he said that it was not his swan song.
What does that mean to you? Na tutuloy niya,
Well, for
tutuloy niya.
me, yeah, parang you have not
The last
seen the last of him. Yeah, he's there to continue whatever it is that he wants to continue.
So did you feel that he was defending himself and basically highlighting his achievements more than telling people what he wants to do in the next 10 months left of his presidency? Because many people were actually looking forward to that, especially because we're in a pandemic, no? And they wanted to know what's the plan in terms of, rehabilitating the economy, what's the plan in terms of, making sure that there's more vaccination, what's the plan in terms of controlling the pandemic. But we kind of didn't really hear anything moving forward, no? It was more like parang a look back on, in fact, inungkat pa niya yung water, yung big business and contracts, ABS-CBN. Was that to you laying the groundwork for, campaigning for the next elections?
Well, yung water definitely, di ba? Kasi popular yun eh. It's popular to the people na these companies to make them accountable for, what he says are contracts, di ba, disadvantageous to the consumer, and then again promising na naman very vaguely na I will go after them. After thanking the private sector for helping in the pandemic, di ba?
Yes, I noticed that.
But he knows now those are applause lines and well, I was saying kanina na what's interesting for me, sinabi niya yung this is not my swan song, pero there was no, except for Bongo na he highlighted for, di ba? He highlighted Bongo
Yes.
for praise, di ba? So that could be related to, but he did not, he mentioned Sara about being under her as vice president, na nabanggit niya yun, but he really didn't talk about also that he will run for vice president. hindi niya hinint yung
Yeah.
yung gano'n. No? So I'm actually trying to read muna anong
Well,
significant.
he
info,
also
if
he
any.
also he also was quite giving praise to Senator Tito Soto, saying
Yes,
that he
did
was
that,
highly
diba?
qualified.
Instead of pushing back na threatening, he did that. So parang he was
Yes.
doing that. Pero yung NTFL CAC, to be honest, that's that's an election thing.
Ah.
Kasi that's about ano, no? That's about money. To be honest, that's where the big money for the election will come from. Kasi it's a soft money yun eh. Yung NTFL CAC, di ba? Unlike infrastructure money, yung usual sa budget na ano, the NTFL CAC is a soft money. It can be used for essentially anything, di ba? And they actually have this already there. It doesn't have to be even in the new budget kasi nandyan na, yan ang roll out nila na ano. Kaya sa akin, importante to call them out on that, di ba? Na that money is wasted, that money is not going to be spent for the right thing. I mean, I think we have to be very
Profs, that
clear
will
about
lead us into, of course, a more explicit conversation about the politics to follow this SONA, but we'll need to take a break. For the moment, we'd like to thank Dr. Jean Encinas Franco of the UP Department of Political Science for having joined us. Thank you, Profs, and we'll just take a quick break. Please stay right there. The Chiefs will be right back. Sila Gretch. Gretch, Paolo, are you there? Gretch?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
No. Yes. No. Yes.
So, sige, we only have, gano'ng kataba to? Sige, singit lang namin kayo sa Chiefs, ha? Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. Before we continue our discussion on the state of the nation, we would like to welcome Gretchen Ho, Paolo De Rosario to discuss Heidelin Diaz win. Gretchen and Paolo, they both look out of breath. Akala mo sila nagbuhat eh, oh. Parang parehong di makahinga eh. Gretchen, tell us how it felt to hear the Philippine national anthem on the Olympic stage.
Oh my God. Robbie, both of us, Paolo and I, we were both crying the whole time, and it was surreal being with the other Pinoys inside the Tokyo Forum. We were all singing together. It was unbelievable, an unbelievable moment, just, trying to absorb what we were seeing right before our very eyes. The first Philippine gold medal in 97 years, and we were there to witness it, Paolo.
Absolutely, Gretch. Again, Robbie, as I mentioned, the way it was won was as dramatic as it could have been. Everyone was on edge. It fell to the very last lift of Heidelin Diaz, and she pulled up in the clutch. It was an amazing, surreal experience that we didn't even realize what happened up until we saw the Philippine flag started being pinned on the flag raiser. And when the national anthem finally played, I lost Gretchen. The tears started flowing, and it was amazing, Robbie.
Yeah,
I have no words
Paolo,
to describe
the
what
context,
this feeling is right now to be here.
Yeah, but Paolo, the context doesn't get any bigger than having won the gold. But that said, give us still the context of the competition. What did Heidelin have to overcome with regards to her competition from China and the entire field? And for that matter, her own conditioning. How was she throughout this entire week?
She came in very, very confident. She was setting the tone, declaring weights way beyond the rest of competition. She was dead set on winning gold. And Robbie, China is the leading, or rather the world record holder in the clean and jerk event, where Heidelin just set a new record at 127 kilograms. They were breaking Olympic records all night in both the snatch and clean and jerk.
And just to add more context to that, Heidi's record before was 123 kilograms. So she went well and beyond what she previously did to take home the gold, Robbie.
Okay. I understand the producers are telling me we have something to play here, video or audio from Heidelin's camp and campaign.
Thank you for all the prayers.
Oh my God, grabe.
Grabe si God.
Grabe. Okay, Heidelin, first of all, ginto. First ever Filipino to win gold, 97 years in the running. How does it feel? Let us know.
Hindi ako makapaniwala. Hindi ako makapaniwala na naiiyak ako. Na-surpresa ako na nagawa ko yun. Kakaiba si God. And sa lahat ng mga prayer warriors ko dyan sa Pilipinas, thank you so much. And sa Team HD, at sa lahat ng sumuporta sa akin, thank you so much for believing in me. When the times na hindi ko na, alam mo yung gusto ko nang sumuko dahil sa dami ng pagsubok na pinagdaanan na kaya nating mga Pilipino.
Heidelin, pumasok ka dito, napaka-confident mo. Nakita namin lahat. Iba yung Iba yung yabang, iba yung sure na sure ka sa sarili mo. Ano yung pakiramdam mo going into the weightlifting competition?
Sa totoo lang, ang kinakabahan ako, baka hindi ko magawa. Pero, the whole day, the whole week, sinasabi ko na, I believe, saka prepared ako. Sa lahat ng pinagdaanan ko, prepare ako ni God to be strong today. Thankful ako sa Team HD na ginawa akong malakas.
Kanina you were setting Olympic records. Nandun na kayo sa level na yon, di ba?
Actually, hindi ko alam na Olympic record na ginagawa ko. Hindi din na makapaniwala. Nandun yung pangalan ko sa Olympic record. So, I'm really thankful. Grabe si God. Grabe si God.
Ano yung pinagdaanan mo to get to this journey? Ngayon na nabawi na yon, meron ka ng gold medal.
Sa totoo lang, ang dami kong pinagdaanan. After winning Olympics, syempre ang hirap mag-sustain. Naging 9/9 ako. Tapos, nagkaroon ng matrix, di ba? Tapos, nakapag-training ako sa BMT. Sobrang gulo ng buhay ko. Nung time na yon, then, we decided I have to stop in school para magkapag-training. I sacrifice a lot. Hindi ko nakasama yung nanay tatay ko for how many months and years na. Then sa training, syempre masakit. Lahat masakit sa training. Pero may plano si God. Tapos ngayon, pandemic tayo. Tapos na-stuck kami sa Malaysia. Malaking bagay na ginaguide ako ni God. Tapos noon, nasa Malaysia kami. Pinadala niya yung mga taong makakatulong sa amin para ma-survive namin ang pandemic. So, sobrang thankful ako. Alam mo yun, nagta-training kami sa condominium, nagta-training kami sa, talagang mahirap yung buhay that time, pero nakaya namin, together with the team, thankful ako. At alam kong, lahat ng hirap na pinagdaanan ko, may reason si God. So, malaking bagay para sa akin.
Ardeline, ano sa tingin mo yung
worth it to. Worth it. Ang hirap.
Idlin Diaz, giving credit to a higher power for all that and dedicating, of course, to our people. And Bok, tama ka. I mean, she acknowledged also all the distractions, not just COVID, not just the challenge of trying to maintain after the last Olympics, but even the matrix, even politics was a distraction.
Bok, palakpakan natin.
No, palakpakan natin. But before tayo bitawan, Paolo and Gretchen, any final, Gretchen, that was you speaking with Heidelin. What else did she tell you?
I'd just like to say that matrix, I was also part of it. So sabi ko, parang tinadhana talaga kami ni Heidelin, just surreal, a lot of things that she went through in the pandemic, a lot of sacrifices. And this is her 4th Olympics, and just imagine, she kept on saying everything had a reason, all the trials that she faced, all the challenges, all of that led to this moment right here.
And what Hayden has done, I think, hopefully is the start of more success for the Philippine Olympic team. And what she's done here is open the door for so many Philippine athletes to finally, hopefully, get more support and more training in and dream for gold medals. Because now that she has achieved it, the door is now open for other Filipino athletes to reach there. It sounds dramatic, Robbie, but this is a very dramatic moment, and we are all emotional at right now.
We are.
Yeah, and Paolo and Gretchen, thank you for...
Both of us were practicing for this gold medal speech, but nothing can really prepare you for it when you're there.
That's
and
right.
It's really, truly overwhelming, and we're just very fortunate to be in this Olympics and with all the challenges of the pandemic. To all of us, and not just here, but back in the Philippines, this gives us much needed hope and much needed joy.
And Gretchen, Paolo, thank you for bringing us the stories of our new heroes, our young heroes, not just in weightlifting, but in so many sports. Napakarami pong inspiring stories coming out of Tokyo in sports that we're all discovering now in our heroes and heroines. Maraming salamat sa inyo. And again, paabot nating lahat kay Heidelin. Maraming salamat. Mabuhay. Yeah, but going back, Bok and Lucci, to what we're discussing, I mean, it's not you know, it starts off, it sounds,
What a bright note for the day, no?
yeah, oh, but, you know,
Nabawi.
and I hope,
Nabawi.
you know, and this is not to be glib, this is not to be glib, but there is something there that brings us back to the SONA. And I completely forgot about that. Heidelin was in that drug matrix, and as Gretchen pointed out, pati siya was in the,
No,
in
it was
the, in the
an anti-government matrix.
oh,
not a
anti-government
drug
matrix, anti-government matrix, and so on. So if you bring that back to that context, we're bringing back all the conversations about everything that President Duterte wanted to talk about, everything that happened not just in the past year, but over the past 5 years. Let's continue this discussion. Still with us, former Dean of the Ateneo School of Government, Attorney Tony Lavinia, Professor Edmund Tayao, and now joining us, Attorney Bruce Rivera. Good evening, Attorney Bruce.
Good evening, Bruce.
Good evening.
Attorney Bruce, alam mo naman, every time President Duterte speaks, we have the analyst and then we have Attorney Bruce. Ikaw na nga magbigay ng context. Bakit ba, ano ka ba dito? Ano bang tawag na, how do we introduce you? And what is your point of view here?
But I'm somebody's matrix. I'm called the Duterte apologist matrix. But at the end of the day, I'm just an ordinary citizen trying to be as objective as I can be.
Yes. No, but that is, I mean, let me say that. I think Attorney Bruce is very clear, very transparent about what he supports, what he believes in. At the same time, you're right. You do try to be very objective every time you're with us. So your objective take, as objective as it could be, on President Duterte's SONA.
Well, for me, it was he was trying to explain the last 5 years in a way that I remember in the past 5 SONAs, he never talked about his achievements, what he has done, what has been done by the government. So this was his last SONA as president. So he was trying to explain his, most of the issues that we find to be very controversial. For example, the drug war, the CTP-NPA issue, the NTF-ELCAC, even the Dolomite issue. Explaining these things for me, and also being happy and being thankful for all the support that people have given. So I think it was not him putting his own horn. He was just trying to, tell the Philippines what he has done in the last 5 years with the help of course, Congress, the public sector, the public servants, even the police, the PNP and the AFP. But he took swipe at even the institutions in the process. So of course he was very honest about number one, the COVID stymieing all of the gains, and of course those that he was not able to fully give us. For example, the drug war. These are things that he was very candid about, and I think for me, it was quite long, maybe 3 hours. I would not be bashed because in the past year I was bashed for saying it was underwhelming. But this time I think it was just he was just talking to us as a president who truly believe or truly is working for his people, and that for me is the takeaway from the SONA.
I know that this is hard to do because it was a 3-hour speech, no? But if you were to be honest, I myself am having a hard time trying to figure out what to ask you guys. But if you were to actually just take out 5 points from sige, let's make it 3, even harder, no? What do you think would be the top 3 highlights of that 3-hour last State of the Nation address of the president? Let's start with si Professor Ed.
Okay. All right.
What would be the top 3 highlights you think if you had to report.
Sinabi ni Presidente, mahirap mamili ng tatlong highlight. No? But of course, he mentioned about the drug war. And admittedly, he mentioned so much more can be done. He mentioned about the pandemic. But if there's anything that I have to disagree with some of the observations, I can only commend the President as far as, at the very least, having started to really counter the propaganda of the left. I mean, whether we like it or not, I've seen the countryside. My work has always been with local governments, and I've seen really the real problem in the countryside. Now, I couldn't agree more as well that there has to be some accountability. Alam mo, yun ang problema natin sa gobyerno natin. In fact, yun yung siguro, for lack of a better term, disappointment ko. Kasi nanalo ang Pangulo doon sa kampanya ng baguhin ng sistema. Pero parang biglang promeno nung midterm na. Kung natuloy sana yung systemic na reform, mas marami sana tayong nagawa kahit dito sa pandemyang ito. No? Kasi kulang na kulang. Halimbawa, and I'm sure many experts will agree in this regard, we introduced decentralization in 1991. No? Nagsimula tayo 1992. Pero bukod tangi yung, and I've been to, I don't have to tell you what I've seen in different countries and so on, but our decentralization lacks one important ingredient, fundamental at that, intergovernmental relations, which prevents, literally, if not even prevents, weakens, no? The way local governments can work with national governments and vice versa. Yun yung kulang. So sa madalit sabi, it's a sad refrain every time that there is an administration that's about to end, no, that will always ask for accountability. And then a new administration comes, wala na naman si accountability, no? So yun yung kulang. It would be unfair to say it is only in this administration that we need accountability. Lahat ng administration, I have to say, kailangan ng accountability, but to be honest, nagkaroon ng diktadurya. Asan na? Ano nangyari sa diktadurya? Nagkaroon ng alleged abuses during the time of former presidents, FBR, GMA, ERAP, and so. Asan ang accountability? Nagkaroon ng issues before the end of the last administration. Asan ang accountability? Wala tayo palaging ending. And this is the very reason why we always, recycle politicians. Yung mga dating inis na tayo, ngayon sila yung reformists. No? I'm sorry, but this is the reality. So there are plus and minuses. I have to agree. And from the very start, I already said I don't agree with the creation of a new agency without an honest-to-goodness assessment of our public administration. But to say bluntly that this is wrong with what this administration did, if there's anything that I don't agree with what the president did, is the choice of the many people around him. That has really limited his work as a president. And this has been the sad refrain as far as all presidents are concerned. Because, again, it's systemic. It's not the president, it's the system.
Thank you. Hey, yeah. Professor
Ako naman,
Lavinia,
ang three takeaways. One naman, nandun yung kwento about the successes, no? Yung sa infrastructure, yung sa economy, yung sa mga reforms, no? I mean, I think importante yon. I think importante, as I said, na iugnay yon sa previous presidents, no? Hindi lang kay President Aquino, but also kay President Arroyo, at least, no? Yung kasi marami na mga projects naman na yun ay nakaugnay. Mali din yung mga yellow na every time na lang mag-announce ng project na natapos, sabihin lang ka, thank you Pinoy, di ba? The truth is that, okay, nag-start kay Pinoy, maybe na-procure kay Pinoy, pero natapos kay Duterte. And they should have, both of them have to be credited for that. I mean, ganun din sa economic reforms. Alam mo, yung mga economic reforms ni Duterte, hindi yun rocket science. Matagal na yung sinasabi-sabi ng mga tao dapat gawin. But the truth is that natapos siya kay Duterte. No? So I would grant that that part of the speech, whenever nandun yon, was clear. But yung second takeaway, ito yung I will build up from Ed, no, ito yung yung parang yung lack of accountability, yung bravado, di ba? Yung claim na hindi na wala namang basis in fact, or actually mismong ina-admit niya, di ba? The big things that he was elected for, war against drugs, whatever measure, palpak talaga siya. And I think President Duterte admitted by saying, kasi ang problema, di ba, yung aking Bureau of Customs, yung aking, di ba, kasama yung aking mga tao doon. He admitted that. That's very striking, no, na na-admit niya yung bagay na yon na corruption, yun, di ba? Dami niya mga hint about ito, kunin niyo ito, powerful tao to, nasa akin pa, di ba? And I think so that was also a real admission of failure, no? Yung nasabi ko kanina, yung sa NTF-ELCAC, while may bravado doon, alam ko false yon. Diba? They're not winning the war against the insurgency. Kasi it's about, the war against insurgency is not, diba? It's not a physical war. It's the war against the roots, your roots of your problem. Alam ko yun kasi lawyer for Lumad schools, diba? They've tried to crush these schools. They've tried to crush, nabanggit ni Pangulo yun, indigenous peoples. They tried to crush this. They're not crushed. I'm telling you, they're not crushed. They're even stronger now with all the attacks of mismong president. Ibubomba ko kayo, inabol, the Lumad peoples are stronger than ever. I will tell you that. So yung part na yon, it's sad because every president tries to fix that. Pinoy tried to fix corruption, but hindi. Because I would agree with Ed, they do not try to deal with the roots, di ba? And especially the political roots of the problem. I mean, although now I've come to also realize after the pandemic na may serious flaws sa ating mga economic managers. Hindi lang kay Duterte, all the way to Pinoy, all the way even to FBR whom I served, no? To Cory, to Marcos, di ba? Mga neoliberal itong ating mga economic managers. They don't care about social inequality. Di ba? They don't care about, and sa akin, nakita ko talaga sa pandemic, the biggest problem in this country is not poverty. It's social inequality. It's social injustice, di ba? And that's why the middle class easily becomes poor because, di ba, wala silang control and it's so unequal. Well, the richest of our society have actually done very well in this pandemic. Grabe yung experience yan. So unless you actually deal with those roots, di ba, you will not be able to fix these big problems. No? Then you ask for 3. Yung aking third na takeaway is the politics part, di ba? What does it all mean for the politics of 2022? I mean, and I have to say na formidable ang magiging influence ni President because of the style, no? I mean, because the style is very clever, very very smart politics, mass-based, yung nga sinabi kanina ni Ed na sinabi ni Malu sa amin, that got me na this was all about saying something to political factions, diba? And addressing something especially to the base, diba? The base, the DDS base, no? I know many of them, worked with many of them, were very happy with his speech. Very happy. Kasi it was vintage Duterte, including the length. Because they enjoy listening to their president, to the president, di ba? So sa kanila, this was vintage Duterte, and if the right choices are made, di ba? At walang ibang kalaban, pero may tira siya sa isang posibleng kalaban. Personally, I think I've said this before, the strongest possible candidate against a Duterte candidate is probably Isko Moreno if he decides to run, no? Simply as charisma lang, ibig sabihin the ability to campaign, no? I don't know about Pacquiao whether he has that ability, but definitely si Isko, if you've listened to him, he's a very talented politician. So sa akin siya yung if he runs, no? Siya yung biggest threat. So siya lang yung tinarget kanina. VP Lenny was ignored. In fact, well, recognized in fact in Zoom, but was not attacked, di ba? Laila de Lima was not attacked. Pacquiao was not attacked. But, di ba? may aside doon para kay Isko, di ba? About vaccination. So that's a wording, I think.
Okay.
Oo. Ayaw raw niya ng walk-in. O, ikaw naman, Attorney Bruce.
Si Bruce.
Okay. Takeaway for me. Number one, what he said and the ad-libs were a little bit funny because it's really true. For example, sinabi niya na mas madaling gawin, mas mahirap basahin, which clearly is really a swipe at those who were operating the prompter, but it's also clearly saying that, it's very easy because he's clearly a work president, that. So hindi tayo hindi ako, I can everyone would agree that he is a different president, good or bad. From which point of view we know that he's something new, something new. So I think for me that is the greatest takeaway from that is that we are not anymore we don't want the same politicians, the same leaders that we would be choosing in the past. Now we would have another way of choosing leaders. Kahit paano nagbago na yung ating feedback, yung ating perspective with regard to leadership. Of course, sasabihin ng iba, well, that's the vintage Duterte, but we never had a Duterte in the past, so we don't really know what's vintage and what's not. Of course, accountability should be continued because I think that's what we lack in our political system. Wherein those in the Napolis list are still brandishing around. Those who are in all this investigation in the past, we can still run elections and have money to run elections. So the money politics, I hope, should change. The second takeaway is that President Duterte, for me, simply said something that this is not his one song, meaning that you will not be hearing the last of him. But I don't believe that he's going to run for a national position. That's for me, my personal matter. I think that he's just playing again because he likes playing with our heads. And for the last 5 years, if nobody learned that, then we have not learned anything. So my prediction is that we would see another Duterte in Davao City, perhaps. Of course, my third takeaway is that President Duterte simply went back to his roots. That is, serving the people, taking accountability for his actions, and basically being a people's president. For me, that's what I see from it. Meaning, if you look at all his achievements, it's all geared towards the people, towards what you call his base. But basically, if his base is 65% majority ratings, approval ratings, then the people are his base. So I think we should be working with that attitude in mind, that if his base is approving of his actions, then I think he's working towards a better Philippines, and I hope we can continue with that in the future, whomever the president will be, because we don't really know who will succeed him.
Right.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Professor Edmund Tayao, former Dean Tony Lavinia, and Bruce Rivera, Attorney Bruce Rivera. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat.
Thank you po.
Bye.
Ingat po.
Nakasingitan tayo ng breaking news. Very good.
Good news naman. Good news naman.
Good news naman. Good
Set up our
news.
spirits. Diba?
And that's all for this special edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez, News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.